Welcome to Four Sisters and a Brother, a podcast where faith meets family. We're five siblings on a journey to grow in Christ, walk in His Word, and share the hope we found along the way. Each week, we come together with real conversations, laughter, encouragement, and a love for Jesus that we pray inspires you in your own walk with Him. Whether you're listening on your commute, during your quiet time, or at the kitchen table, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the conversation. This is Four Sisters and a Brother. I went to see the movie Michael, and I'm sitting there thinking about this movie. And y'all remember the made-for-TV movie, like The Jacksons, American Family, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So, some title like that. And of course, they go through Michael Jackson's early life all the way up to like Thriller, through that whole era, like the early mid 90s or whatnot. So, anyways, I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm watching this, Joe Jackson and his craziness. And so they show a scene where the boys are coming back from their first tour, like their dad took them to Illinois, someplace, and they had to sing that night when they came back. The mom was like, oh, they were all like, oh, it was really great. And, and they were all like really, really excited. Now, the scene before that, they showed Joe Jackson looking at the boys as they're performing and watching Michael in particular and seeing like the big gifting that he has. And so when they come in the house, their mom is like, well, go put your pajamas on. You got school tomorrow. And Joe was like, no, we got to perfect our show. Get your stuff set up. So he tries to make them get their guitars and stuff out. And they was like, man, because it was already like 12 or 1 in the morning. And he was like, oh, man, and they was all complaining. So then Michael said something smart. And so he just pulled off his belt and started beating the boy, started whooping him. So we all know he whooped his kids. And so Michael ran off and like hid in the bathroom and just was rocking against the wall. And I was thinking about that because I know our part of your subject matter today is sports, and especially sports with young people. And I was thinking, he saw a talent in his kids and he meant to develop it. Now, do I agree with his tactics? Absolutely not. I don't agree with beating your kids senseless, making them practice at all hours of the night. But at the same time, if he had not driven them, would they be the stars they are today? What do you think?
The
I don't think
balance.
so. I don't think so.
Yeah, there's
Do you think they would be the mega stars that they are today? I mean, and when I'm looking at this movie and I'm thinking about Michael Jackson, no one has come close to his level of stardom. And I know people are like, oh, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. Well, Taylor Swift doesn't appeal to all people. I mean, in this movie, they're showing scenes, he's traveling across the world, every single continent, every type of person knows his songs. They are just, no one has touched that level of stardom. And I think to myself, if their dad had not pushed them like he pushed them, would they be the stars that they are today? Even if he was balanced in his pushing toward them, would they just be mediocre? Would they just kind of be like some of the stars that we have today? But this man achieved stardom across the board. He topped every single chart except country music.
I think there's multiple ways that you can teach a kid work ethic, and it doesn't always mean harm, like physical harm. Like I feel like you can teach your kid how to have some work ethic, and I think that's happened before. There's at least one superstar that wasn't beat to perfection. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's multiple ways you can teach a person, and there's multiple personalities that you have with kids and how they respond. Because he responded a certain way and still became a superstar. There's some kids you did that to, and they would have never been. They would have went the opposite road. Had been on drugs and alcohol and never achieved anything. And so there had to be something within him that kept him motivated to continue on in music. Whereas there's some people that would have happened to them, they would shut down. So,
But
Uh,
you just look at the
True.
group. Look at the group. He's the only superstar. His brothers, I mean, they fell off. I mean, they tried to do their thing, but they weren't as famous as him, and they still got the same punishments and had to practice at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I
So,
think he made it, but the price for him making it was okay. So he still made it to stardom, but his psyche was damaged.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy, and like somebody said, whenever they talk about Michael Jackson, the whole pedophile thing starts, popping up and all of that. Do I think he was a pedophile? I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't sense that he was. I just sense that he was a very damaged person. Even when the movie was coming on, he was staring out the window. Of course, it was in Gary, Indiana, looking at all the kids with a snowball fight, and he wanted to go outside and play. And Joe was like, "Get over here, get this guitar, get this microphone, move!" And he's like jumping off the couch, and the fact that they called their dad Joseph by his first name is just crazy. It's just crazy. That's uncommon in the Black community, at least, for you to refer to adults by their first name,
Let alone
especially
your
your parents.
Yeah.
Right. So that's unheard of. But I just think about that, and I was trying to remember, the movie King Richard that was about Venus and Serena Williams. Same kind of thing. I thought, okay, he saw potential in his kids, but he didn't use the same tactics, and they still became athletic stars. So, I don't know.
Tactics. He was
I think, well, he was a bit extreme in some areas, but not like this dude. This dude was crazy.
Crazy.
I think
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes it has to do with the way that they're raised, like the kids, the way they see that their parents are and people around them in their neighborhoods. Their parents probably was working hard, and this his mom's working hard, other people, and that's just the way that they grew up, where people they knew that, hey, it's going to take something, it's going to take some extra effort, it's going to have to take some hard work to achieve something and all like that. So then in their minds, when he was getting them up, they didn't want to do that, but they just, in a sense, it was like, well, we got to do what our dad tells us to do. So this is what he's telling us to do. What the exception with nowadays and all like that, it was like, I didn't hear kids talking about, you ain't my dad, or yeah, I don't care what you think and all like that, because they don't look at their parents or their guardian has any type of work ethic. They be like, oh, why I gotta work hard, and then it's a whole different atmosphere, a whole different, attitude toward that type of deal and all. So yeah.
But you see, it eventually cost him his life.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't, I don't believe he was supposed to die when he did. But
right.
All true.
True. I don't know. It's just a question to be asked these days. Like,
again, that DNA marker. Joe has some problems.
Joe has some problems. It's what's that terminology?
Generational trauma.
Well,
no,
let's just go with that. It's another word I was trying to think of, but anyway, welcome to another episode of Four Sisters and Brother. This is Jocelyn. I'm going to host this particular episode today. And you kind of got the slant of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about youth sports. This is kind of a play off of our very first episode. I don't remember how many seasons ago. How many seasons was it? 6?
4, 5, 6,
5 seasons ago, when Leah had 6. When Leah did the first episode called "Would It Even Matter?" Is that what it was called?
Something like that.
And we talked about youth sports a little bit then, but now we're going to do a kind of a deeper dive into it, because this topic is one of those things that you got to question some things, kind of like Michael Jackson and Joe Jackson type of relationship when it comes to kids in multi-billion-dollar sports industry. There's a lot of nuances to it. There's a lot of complexities to it, and the NLI does not make it better. NLI. NIL doesn't make it better. I have an NIL in my notes too, and I just said it backwards. Anyway, so we're kind of going to dive into a couple of topics as regards to youth sports. Are you ready? So, first and foremost, youth sports, like I said, is a billion-dollar corporate. It's a billion-dollar business nowadays. Can you tell me how many $billion it is? How much revenue do youth sports generate yearly? Do not Google this.
6
5
billion.
How many?
1
Six.
billion.
Candace said 6. I said 5.
I said 2 billion, but
No.
12.
obviously.
No.
Is it higher? Is it lower?
Higher.
36.
20.
It's $30 billion business.
Shut up.
Ooh.
And this is not just AAU. This is all youth sports. It's a $30 billion business a year. There is so tantalizing that there was a Forbes magazine article called Best Practices for Investors Exploring the Youth Sports Industry. So people are investing in children. Basically, the product, no, the business is sports, the product is children. I don't know that children should be the product of a $30 billion industry because they're just children. But let's get into it. They even talked about there's a sports complex that was built in Westfield. I want to say about 6-7 years ago, and it's huge.
Grand
It's
Park?
huge. I'm sorry.
Grand Park?
Probably. I don't know the name of it, but that is referenced in this article. And Forbes magazine is not a local magazine. This is Forbes magazine. And so they referenced Westfield and how much money it generates. And so, but we all from Indiana or Indianapolis area know what Westfield is like. And the demographics that live in Westfield and
We do.
the economic background of Westfield, Indiana, and how the money is going to Westfield, Indiana, how much of that money is going to inner city places? So, and for inner city children to actually go to get exposure, where do they need to go? To Westfield, Indiana. Now, Westfield outside of Indianapolis is what, maybe 30 minutes or so, 35 minutes, depending on where you live.
Mm-hmm.
If you live on the far south side, then it's
That's a hike.
a hike.
45 minutes.
So 45 minutes or so. So you have to have transportation, clearly have to have some sort of money just to make it up there. Then you have to start paying fees and all these sorts of things. So anyway, let's jump into it. Now, for high school sports, high school level, and actually it's underneath the NIL, which means name, image, and likeness. It was approved that anybody under the age of 18 with parent permission can sign one of these deals, basically saying, I'm going to sell my image or my likeness for a certain amount of money. And agents are getting involved in youth sports. So I guess my question is, companies investing in kids and kids getting paid, what's the problem with that?
A lot of things. Because then you're relying on the parents to kind of keep it on the straight and narrow. But then when money gets involved with anything, people just start doing some crazy stuff.
Such
They-
as?
Not
Selling their kids to
listen-
the highest bidder.
selling the kid to the highest bidder. I was listening to one article or listening to one podcast, and there's actually people holding their kids back in elementary school so they can have more time to develop and be better at this sport versus like letting them excel academically, which is
I heard
wild.
Athletic slavery.
They're
To me,
holding
it's a
them.
form of slavery. You're using the child to produce something for your pockets most of the time, because that's what parents, I shouldn't say all parents, but they want them to make it because of the financial gain for the family. So if you are our ticket out, then I'm going to prostitute your gift or whatever you have in order to line my pockets and make sure that our family, this goes back to the whole Joe Jackson thing. That's what he was trying to do, and even when Michael broke out on his own, he tried to set up that victory tour so he could brand the Jackson name. Even though the other boys weren't as good as Michael, he wanted that brand. And so it was about lining his pocket. So now my son is big and he's making these moves. I'm going to exploit that even more and try to build myself up. And I think, If you don't have good parents, godly parents, parents that are led by the Spirit or whatever, they see the money and it becomes detrimental to the child. Look at you sacrificing. I didn't know that. How do you hold somebody back in elementary? I guess you can,
It
in
was
elementary
actually
school.
like they were paying these
They pay
schools to
you
hold
hold the kid
the
back.
kid back.
So make them flunk a grade. So basically, they will
Essentially.
repeat the fourth grade or fifth grade or wherever they are.
I've heard it they were a little older than elementary, but they do, and so that when you play AAU ball, you play it per grade. So you're older than all the other kids that you're playing against, and therefore you look like a
I think you play
superstar.
per age because it's 14 under, 15 and under. It's not necessarily grade, it's when your birthday hits for age,
Then what is
is
the
what
benefit of
team.
holding them back?
So I think so they can develop and have more time in a, I don't know, in a structured setting. I don't know. That's just what the lady said. She was like, "Yep, some
They hold them
twenty
back.
thousand dollars to hold him back."
But this is my thing. So when you usually get that type of talent, they are, I won't say all the time, but you can about 80% their socioeconomic status is not that great. So you have parents that probably didn't go to school, didn't go to college, they're high school graduates or whatever. They had to work to provide. So the knowing the industry, they have no idea. And then you have these agents who come and take advantage of the
Mm-hmm.
parent because the parents have to sign off on everything. And you can throw flashy stuff in front of someone who just doesn't know. And they're like, okay. And before you know it, your kid is here and there and everywhere because you're thinking you're helping the family. But in the end, are these deals really benefiting the families? You know what I'm saying? Because they could be, if you don't read the fine print, if you don't have someone, and we know that people and families that are in better socioeconomic statuses, they have those resources to be like, let me get my attorney to look at this deal that I'm about to sign for my child. We ain't got that. We don't have that. We going to Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, this look good. Uncle Joe, because he been around the block. And Uncle Joe, like, yeah, this look good. And you don't know what you're signing, and you're signing your kid, your child up for some of this stuff, and you get taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to that point, okay, and to Leah's point, okay, if you have money, the opportunity is already there. Whether this kid signs this or not, they may be still okay. But if you have a family who doesn't make a lot of money and they say, I'm going to give you $1 million if you hold your kid back, sign this deal, and you don't have anything, that is a hard way to pass. It's, a hard thing to pass up. So it's very difficult to look at people who don't have much opportunity, or at least don't seemingly have a lot of opportunity to make that kind of money, to pass it by. You know
Well,
what
I
I mean?
think, yeah,
And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong for doing what they do. I just think that when you're flashing that type of money in front of someone's face, and I'm not talking, it doesn't even have to be 1 million. It could be 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. That's more than what you make in like 3, 4 months. And so you're like, hmm, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of hard to sit back and say, well, you should let them go to school, because some people are like, look, this is what school's for. You go to school so you can make money one day. And so it's just here now. So what do you say to stuff like that?
I guess my thing is, can we back up and look at why we have this phenomenon and where this came from? Because even y'all were in AAU. Now, y'all know I'm not the athletic one, but y'all were in AAU, and I know y'all had fees to pay and things like that. But where did we make a turn where now this has become what it has become? Because it used to be, now we 80s and 90s kids, mostly 90 for our teenage years and stuff like that, college scouters came to high school games and things like that. I heard they don't come to those anymore. They go to AAU tournaments. They don't even go to high school games hardly anymore. Um, we got people that are not only putting their kids into these. I was talking to somebody that I know that daughter plays volleyball, and you literally have to take out another mortgage for this child to play in this sport. One of my friends, her daughter, they got her in a league that's associated with the university that's not as expensive, but this one particular 10 grand on one trip. That was hotel, food, travel. They have to pay all the tournament fees. 10 grand. I was like, when did it become this? When did we get to the point where you can't just enjoy trying out a sport? It all has to come down to who's making money. Like, so what's the big overarching things? What has shifted in people's mind that they feel like they have to go this way? And I saw it kind of going this way for a while. I told you a while ago, I used to do Time for Kids for my students in school. You remember Weekly Readers? Well, Time Magazine has one for kids, and it's called Time for Kids. And with that subscription, the teacher gets a Time magazine, the monthly magazine that comes out. And on the front cover was particularly baseball. And this one family who is investing in their child thousands of dollars. They're paying, I think, $10,000 just for coaching a, a coach to coach them in a pitching coach. Yeah. And then they're paying all this money for high end bats and this and that and the other, all in hopes that their kids make it to the major leagues. I think that, back in the day, people would be like, if my kid makes it to pros, that's great. I just want them to be a great person. If they don't, they hopefully they find a career that they love. But now it's like dog eat dog. Like, even if you just wanted to play for fun, you can't even play for fun anymore.
I think what changed was the court case against the NCAA and what came of that, and really striking down amateurism sports when the NIL became a thing in college sports and has been trickling itself down to youth sports ever since. Basically saying that if you're making money off of this person, off of this player, then they deserve a cut. And so now money is starting to flow more freely because not only are you paying the entities such as the college or the university for like whatever, you're paying these players. And so now players of every sport and every age expect compensation for what they're doing. And it's destroying the amateurism of sports. And so now the only way to get in is to get paid. Like players get paid. Like I'm talking about higher level players. The problem is when you have players that aren't as talented, they still expect to get paid. And that's my problem.
And when you're spending that much money on your child, I'll go ahead and say it. I've been a dream crusher all my life. Your child's not that good.
They're not that good.
If you're spending it, just like the one thing that we saw where they're living out of an RV to pay for their kids so they can get batting lessons and all, your child's not that good because the really good players, they're not paying for stuff. Them people are paying them to play on their teams. And it's been like that for a while. It's just NIL broke it open. It was illegal before NIL. But some of them mega teams in high school where you got all these all-stars, they all go in Division 1 somewhere at a Power 5 at the time. They were getting paid under the table. Now it's just legal to do it. So it's always been happening. But I think what really set the tone was NIL and social media. Because a lot of these kids now, they have social media followings of millions and hundreds of thousands. And you doing all of this, I want you on my team. You giving my team exposure too. Come on over here. I'll give you this. So yeah, I think NIL, but social media before that, NIL just made everything that they were doing in amateur sports before they made it legal. They've been playing these players.
The
Okay,
recruiting
Go ahead,
age,
Candace.
the recruiting grade is now seventh grade. They can start recruiting you in the 7th grade to play a sport in college?
For
Who said you even gonna be good? Like, who said? But they can start. So when we do events for stuff, some student athletes was like, "Why can't we do community service events in the high school? Because it's their recruiting age. We can't even do stuff in middle schools. We have to do stuff with elementary schools because that's all you got. Because you can literally start recruiting in the 7th grade. It's wild, and it's the amount of money that's just flowing around here, y'all. If
Well, I
really
think
told
it's,
y'all the
you know,
numbers. If I really told y'all the numbers, y'all be like, And I'm rolling around here in my little Hyundai Tucson, and you got a Tesla Cybertruck. Man.
Well, see, I wanted to keep this topic to youth sports and not necessarily collegiate. And I know they're young still, but we kind of did an episode on the NIL. I have to keep thinking about it. The NIL for collegiate sports, and we can go down that rabbit hole and get stuck. And so,
but this is it's a part
go
of
ahead.
that.
Yeah.
Because you know that saying that says shoot for the stars or shoot for the moon, and if you don't make it, at least fall among the stars. I think that's the mentality people are taking because they know, I think they know their kid, they're living in an RV and they know their kid is not that good. But because of NIL, I
The
can do
thought
this
of
for
it.
them now. They
Mhm.
might not make it to the major leagues. They might not make it to the NBA. But by golly, if they are in college for 4 years, I don't care if they have to move every 4 years. They're making something.
And they
It's
do.
it's a money grab.
Yeah.
And so if I can make them good enough to at least grab something, they might not make it to the pros. They not. But you know what? We're gonna make 3 million on the way out,
You
of
know,
getting we ain't got no college degree to show for it. I've been to 4 different schools. I ain't graduated from nothing, but I got $3 million. And that's all that was that. And I think that is what parents are looking at too.
in colleges and universities and businesses and things that pay these players, it's almost like they have to pay to play the game. Like they have to pay these players even if their image isn't worth their play. And this is what bothers me.
Correct. That's
Here
what,
you
okay.
say to me, you deserve $300,000 because your image is worth $300,000.
And
Yet
it's not.
you are airballing free throws and layups, and you turning the
Girl.
ball over, and you can't throw the ball down the field, and you're not fast enough to run. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are we paying you money where your image does not equal your play on the field? And you demanding it, and then you could turn around and get into the transfer portal when you don't get paid, and then tell somebody else how much that you're worth. And I'm like, but you're not worth that. And so here's my issue. I'm sorry, Candace, I have to get this thought out. Like Deion Sanders said, these are my boys. So if you want to criticize them, you criticize me as their coach. I'm a grown man. These are kids. And I said I disagree because your kids are taking like $500,000 and saying, this is what I'm worth. Then you should complete this pass. If they were an amateur and they wasn't getting paid anything, I would agree with you. I would say they're kids, they're developing, they're this, they're that. But they said to you, this is what I'm worth. And so to me, if you getting paid like $1 million, then you should be outstanding, right? You shouldn't be fumbling around with the ball. You shouldn't be like an 18-year-old. You're telling me you're better than that.
Do you know that some of these people are making more money than the minimum average of like a
the pros.
rookie in the pros? I'm like, and who are telling you that what parameters are set in place to tell me that you worth this much money? I just don't get. But if you want to bring it back to the elementary level,
Yes,
I used to coach AAU travel ball, and that's one of the reasons why I quit. Is because of the parents. The parents, which are the driving force behind a lot of things, they be some of the worst people. I'm like, I am not taking another phone call or getting cornered after another game because you think that your daughter is good. She's not. Well, why didn't she play? Because she's not good. Why did she get smoked on defense? That's why she's not out there. We'll lose with her out there. She's just on the team because, hey, she's on the team, but she's not good. I mean, And they go on and on and on, and she's playing out of position and da 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 da. I'm like, oh, y'all about to leave me alone. I quit, and I did not come back the next year because it's the parents. It's
Question
the
for
parent.
AAU: do they do tryouts, or does
No,
anybody who wants to they pay their money, do they
I
automatically
think it
get in?
depends on the development of the team.
Yeah,
They can
it depends
choose,
on the team level.
yeah, if what they want to do.
because sometimes, like when we were in AU, if we had too many for our age group, they still let everybody play, but they just split the teams. So
But
you
they
may have
still,
two six.
but they
You may
still
have
make everybody pay though. To
yeah.
for
Oh, everybody
If you
gonna
so
pay.
Oh, everybody gonna
oh,
pay
but see that's the
unless you're really
Everybody
thing.
gonna
good.
pay.
Let's go
But
to
it's
AAU because I was gonna jump to
Wait,
AAU next, but
can
go
I make
ahead.
a point though? We're talking about all of this, but since NIL has come out for high schoolers and whatever, who's really benefiting? If you see this slant in society, it's still always going to be males. You
Oh
have
yeah.
you have females, you have in the basketball arena, but outside of basketball, what females can benefit from this? What other
softball,
sport?
Tennis
softball.
players, Josh, Candace, Tiffany,
Isn't
tennis players,
I
they
don't think
out
so.
there
Go
with
ahead.
all their and
volleyball,
softball players.
volleyball is probably the closest outside of women's basketball, but they still don't make a quarter of the amount that the men play. The
And
males.
Softball.
they're talking about Olympic sports being
No.
crushed by the NIL at the collegiate level and how that's going to affect our Olympians moving forward. We'll get into that because I'm going to try to keep going. All right. Have an additional question about AAU basketball in particular. Let me give you some stats. It's a significant financial commitment, often costing 1,000 to 5,000 per person per season per person, far exceeding the $20 registration fee. So if you play on one of these AAU teams, you can potentially pay this much per season per athlete. The true costs adding up, travel, hotels, gas, food, uniforms, and things like that is about $20 to $40 a day. High level showcase teams are often the most expensive, sometimes costing over $25,000 annually.
I believe it.
Mm.
$25,000 annually. Um, in some club sports is between $15 and $5,000 per year. So some of these things are just bananas. The amount of money that's just floating around here for children, you know,
It's not even
um,
for the kids. That's the
it's not
thing.
even for the kids
Your
anymore.
parents gonna take that money and spend it, and by the time you old enough to spend it, you ain't gonna have nothing.
Or these companies, it's not necessarily even for the kids. I mean, I think I sent y'all that video where that man said he's a basketball coach, coaches high school, middle school, something like that. He just likes to support his players at their AAU games. And he paid $50, $50 for a weekend pass. You can't even buy it by the day. So if your team don't make it in the first round on the first day, I mean, I
Still
guess you
pay
can come back,
$50.
but you still paying $50. I guess you can come back and watch all the other teams, but
Tiffany, no.
you're paying $50. So you think about something as small as that. All these parents, all these, coaches or whatever that are coming, and everybody, this is after they done paid the fees to get in. The parents have already paid the attorney fees, they've gotten the uniforms, they got the shoes, they've traveled to the place, they bought food, they've got lodging, they did all of that, and they still got to pay $50 to get in for something that they might not even achieve in. Think of all of the people that I just named. Hotels are making money, uniform companies are making money, shoe companies are making money, eateries are making money in these places. They love to see AAU tournaments coming. And
Well,
then the venue. So we just got Joe Blow's High School, and they just made
They
$25,000
not
off of
having it at a
everybody
high
They
who,
ain't
school.
in
well,
nobody's
They're
high
not
school.
having
wherever.
it at a high school.
well,
Okay,
It's
well,
at
y'all
convention
know
center.
see, that's
wherever,
what I was
convention
gonna
center,
say.
whatever, and they charging this. They look how much money all these other people are making on the backs of these kids.
Well,
Go
as
ahead,
far as
Doctor.
the $50 per person, if they have a whatever venue that they're at, well, I look at it like it's on the other hand, the venue that I don't know how much is a good price to charge now like that, but for the venue, they got the building, they got their rent or whatever mortgage or whatever they pay there, they got their lights and all like that, they got the employees who's working there and all like that. So how are they gonna get paid if don't
But
anybody paying to get in though?
here's a cost that people don't see. Coaches pay for the get the book, information of teams, and those are anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a book for you to go and scout different players from different teams and see their stats. They pay almost $1,000, if not more, depending on what tournament for the book. And if you have 50 coaches there who all paid $1,000, it's just inflated at this point because
That's what I'm
that
saying.
book was like 100, maybe 125 pages, if that, and you charging somebody $1,000
I
for a
mean,
book like
see,
that.
See,
and that's what I'm
I
talking
get what
about.
Dante's saying though. I get what he's saying because
Yeah,
you got to pay your employees and
Yeah,
all that
overhead.
stuff. But like didn't Tiffany was just like one of her people she knew was $65 for a week for one person. So if you have a set of parents that's coming, that's an automatic $130 just for a parent couple to come and see their kid play. So imagine you in Grand Park that can seat thousands and you paying that much money per person, and if your kid lose in the first round, they ain't giving you no money back. So, so I'm just like,
I
I,
mean, but
I
it,
and like I said, I understand what Dante's saying too, but I think you can charge a reasonable price enough to pay your employees, even make a profit off of it. But this stuff, they know people want their kids to win. They want their child to be seen. So they're going, it's just like even at the elementary level, okay, we have a girls basketball team, we have a boys basketball team. We had think about they know people are willing to pay that. And the reason why I say that is because, okay, so I'm watching, especially the boys, and we have a set of parents who will remain nameless that thinks their child is already NBA status. Already. They think he is NBA status. Child don't even come to school, but parents will bring him for basketball practice after school. We don't do that. So then they started bringing him to school. They bring special shoes. Their parents have to bring the special shoes up to the school every single day. He has to have a particular kind of Gatorade and all of this stuff. And all of this is to help him practice to get in a higher tier also in AAU. Now, this kid, like you said, Tiffany Dreamcatcher, sucks. We got a kid who is on this team who is quiet, mannerable, gets good grades, comes to school, plays the game beautifully, never gloats, never anything. But he also is a low SES status, so he doesn't have the funds and stuff to put in to AAU like this kid. This kid sucks, but his parents are doing all they can to make sure that he makes it. At the end of the year, the boys basketball team, I believe we won the city. This parent then turns around and throws an NBA style after party, hired photographers, had a whole background set up, photo shoots, all this stuff. This is elementary basketball. You played 6 games.
that's
Six
it.
games. They play 6 games because you got to play every school in our district, and then you play the championship or the
16
tourney that
quarters.
you go into the right. And then I want to see your child's stats because every single time I was in the game, he was airballing stuff left and right, can't make no free throws, and was angry, getting very disrespectful with the school leadership because they wanted to pour their whole time and life into making sure this was the grandest basketball. This is just the beginning, baby. This is just the beginning. One parent had a whole cutout of the child's father who was incarcerated and drug it on the championship field and was like, yeah, baby, yeah. And come on. And so my whole point goes back to they know that parents are willing to pay this kind of stuff because they want to see their kid make it to the NBA or to the NFL or to the major leagues. And so you have parents with that mentality who are willing to exploit their kids, who are willing to prostitute their kids, who are willing to push their kids to this level, and they'll pay for it. They'll pay for it. So they're going to exploit them. So yes, they have overhead fees. Yes, they have all this other stuff, but it don't matter. It don't matter. You know why? They're going to push it because they know parents are going to pay for it.
Well,
What is this teaching the kids?
I was going to get to
what I
this
said.
because I have a couple questions about this, especially AAU. Some of the knocks on AAU is that it does not coach well and it does not give basic skill level to players. Basically,
It does not teach basic
it doesn't
skills.
teach basic skills. And so basically they're just going on talent, your ability, your athletic ability, and you get to get on these certain teams. And so there's not a lot of coaching development and things like that. And so here's my issue with it, and kind of what Leah said, you know, our college coach is just getting pretty lazy when it comes down to recruitment and just going
Yes.
to the AAU route instead of actually looking for people who just need to be developed a little bit more but cannot afford to go to AAU. So the Jimmy Chipwoods and the back heels of Virginia who has a nice jump shot, but their parents are poor and he can only play high school basketball, are they still looking for that guy and saying, well, he may not have the most talent, but he can still be developed into something? Not everybody has the natural ability, but they still have ability enough to be developed. Are they just getting too lazy and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go to the top 100 in this AAU group, and I'm not even going to deal with Jimmy Chipwoods of the world? So is it causing a lack of opportunities for people who just
Well,
don't have money?
It is.
Yes. And I don't know if it's laziness. I think there's two parts to that. Coaches have contracts, and it's all about what can you do for me now. That's why the
Hmm.
transfer portal has blown up so big. No one wants to develop kids anymore.
Yeah.
They just want ready made. Can I get these 5 players? Can I get these 11 players to fit into the system and so I can run wide away? Because you know what? My job is on the line and I got to
Hmm.
feed my family. So
Hmm.
I feel like
Mhm.
there's pressures coming from when you talk about collegiate, there's pressures coming from other things outside of I don't want to take the time to develop players. But I do think the players that can't afford to do the AU but still decent and all they need is some polishing. Because if you look at us, when we were playing in school, our basketball coach was also our PE teacher.
Hmm. In the
He
swim,
had knowledge, he had
the
knowledge
track guy.
in the track guy and the
Hmm.
swim coach or whatever, but he had knowledge in the sport. You get to some schools that they just like, I do it for the extra money, but they don't know nothing.
Hmm.
And so you got people that can really be developed, can't afford to do the higher end stuff that's
Hmm.
just like, and then you have coaches who are like, well, I gotta win now. I might take a freshman. I might take a freshman. I might take a freshman. And that's in every sport. That's not just basketball.
Hmm.
That's across the board.
Hmm.
What type of effects do you have on true freshmen in high school? Like we said before, like you just don't have a shot.
Mm.
Well, and I think the other thing, this might be going in a different
Not
direction,
freshmen,
but
I'm
I
talking about seniors in high school, but still.
seniors, you ask, what does this teach children? All of these things. Number one, I think is teaching them that sports is king or God over everything. And I hear about you guys talking about how, it's hard to get your athletes to go to class, to understand they need to do whatever. So all of that didn't start at the collegiate level. It started way down at the elementary level. So the same kind of parents are calling teachers every single time their kid gets a D or an F because they didn't turn in an assignment or they did not do well. So the parent does not want to hold the child accountable because they just want their schedule to be free to be able to play sports. So I'm going to yell at you until you change their grade. And so my kid can be free to go ahead and play. So we have parents who watch, we call it Power School, their child's grade portal like a hawk, but not because they want them to academically excel. They just want them to remain eligible to play. And so if that means I got to call you and scream at you and tell you my child needs another opportunity to take this test and you didn't grade it right and blah 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 in order for them to stay eligible. So now that has taught the child that my sport is more important than my academics or having any kind of discipline or stick to itness, that I can just have somebody call and scream at you. And so that starts in elementary. And then what you do, they matriculate through the system and then they're up there in the collegiate level. And instead of their parents calling, it's their coaches calling and hollering about grades sometimes so they can remain eligible. Or is somebody doing the same kind of behaviors and they still haven't learned to work themselves. So, I think that's one of the things that is teaching kids.
Accountability.
Ability. Yeah. But I'm gonna give you some stats, and I think we kind of know these stats. 2% of all NCAA college football players will go pro. 0.03% of all boys high school basketball players will go pro. 1% of women's college basketball players will go pro. That's how low the percentages are. This is why the NIL is so important, because they know some of these kids aren't good enough to go pro, and this is my big payday. And
Yeah.
so that's why we have what we have. I even found that AAU teams are some as young as 6 years old. And I was like, that is just crazy to me, 6 years old. And there's a kind of this unhealthy balance of emphasis on winning at all costs. And we just talked about, how player development isn't quite there at the NCAA level, or I'm sorry, at the AAU level. So I think sometimes what happens is there winds up being friction when they come across the coach that's now actually emphasizing those skills and saying, listen, you're going to have to learn this stuff now. And so hard coaching, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. Like, can you coach kids hard nowadays, because they're so used to having certain level of entitlement that all I got to do is show up and you're going to let me shoot this ball whenever I want to, whatever. There's no discipline in there. And so you can't coach them hard anymore. Like, am I not looking at that right? At least that's what I see. Like, you can't take criticism in any way, shape, or form without jumping in a transfer portal or jumping in different high schools. There's people who gone to 5, 6 high schools because the coach over there told you couldn't shoot this half court shot.
Jocelyn,
So
Jocelyn, criticism in kids now, period, is not a thing at all. Like, it don't even make no difference if it's in sports. It's in anything. They don't want to be criticized for nothing, and if they are, they just fall apart
so
completely.
here's my question to that then. What does it take to actually coach children?
A
I
lot of
feel like it does start with the parent. The parent has to teach them from a young age, of course, because you had them at a young age of, if they get them in sports young, how to win gracefully, how to lose gracefully, how to control your emotions at a certain point, how to be a good human. I have a coach who was like, I just want people who want to be a good human.
Hmm.
And that's hard to find. Like, it starts with the parents. If the parents, just like I was telling my friend, you have high anxiety. So you know what's gonna happen, you know what's happening. Your son
It's high
got some
anxiety.
anxiety there because he done seen all his life. Whenever a situation gets stressful and hard, your anxiety go through the roof. Now his is so you it's up to the parents to start that process.
Hmm.
It's up to the parents to start just everything when it comes to a kid. It's your child.
Hmm.
God gave you that child to steward. And if you don't steward that child right, you'll get the kids that we have now who walk out of class and says, "Well, I'm hungry and I'm going to get something to eat," in the middle of class
Hmm.
or
This is
the
and think there's
college.
ones
no consequence. That's what you get. But
Hmm.
it starts with the parents.
that walk out of class and be like, I don't care, I make more money than you anyway, to a whole professor. That's crazy.
I've always talked about the imbalance in college and how college sports should leave college. I said that a long time ago. I know I got booed out the room if I said that out loud, But I said that in my graduate school programs. I said college sports needs to leave college because it doesn't have any type of direct connection anymore.
Well, the
And people looked at
colleges won't
me.
let that happen
They
now
won't
because it's
because
too
it's
much
way too much
money.
money. But that back in the day when you possibly could have got away with it, but not anymore. It's over now. The
Not
toothpaste
to
is out of the
mention,
tube. You can't put it back.
not to mention, you're seeing a lot more injuries.
I'm
And
getting to that. That's my very next thing. Hold that thought.
okay.
Hold that thought. I had this very next thing. I was going to talk about specialization in sports because it's also a paper I had to write in graduate school. If you didn't know, my second degree is in sports administration. And so I decided to write about this particular topic and I started looking it up. And I was starting to look it up in kid runners because they were having knee problems at like 10. I was like, what? And so I started talking about overusage and things like that. Now, this is an article from the American Academy of Pediatrics, Overuse Injuries, Overtraining, and Burnout in Youth Athletes. That's what they call it. What percentage of kids walk away by the age of 13 of sports?
Walk away at 13?
Walk away.
And
Can't
don't
see
come
walk
back.
away?
Yeah, and don't come back.
Will their parents let them walk away?
Well,
65.
20%. Oh, higher.
75.
82.
lower, 70%.
Mm.
They discontinue it by the time they turn 13. I could read this
How?
whole thing.
How? So what time? So what age are they starting at to discontinue at 13?
I mean, some of these kids are starting at like 6 and 7, maybe even younger than that. They're trying to live the life through their parents. Their parents trying to make them into that baseball player because they wasn't one. When I was working in my previous position, there was a guy who needed double knee replacement at the age of 16. Double knee replacements. He was a catcher in baseball, and he spent most of his time crouching down in that position, double knee replacement. He's not even 20. And so some of these things are the hidden effects of youth sports that people don't really talk about too much. Growing bones in kids they're just less tolerant of a whole bunch of stress because they're growing all at the same time. And so people don't think of the developmental toll is taken on joints and injuries like that. And there's certain things they even call pitcher's arms for baseball for kids in baseball and little league. They were like, you didn't even have a pitch count. You were like, you just gonna go out there and pitch because you are our best pitcher. But that kid can only throw the ball so many times before their arm is noodles. And so they were getting injuries. And so now, let me see, youth baseball and specifically pitchers, studies have shown that kids between the age of 9 and 12 who throw more than 600 pitches per year and 75 per games have an increased risk of Tommy John surgery. Tommy John surgery is a torn UCL in the elbow.
Elbow, right there.
And I'm like, there's 75. The risk of it is way higher for those type of students or kids. Common injuries to the lumbar, spine, tibia. And I'm like, wait, what? They're lumbar? And these are children. So I think the increase in Achilles tears, I think, is because of specialization that we're starting to see in like the NBA level and the college level. It's like, you never played another sport, did you? And so they said 7 out of 10 Olympic athletes were multi-sport athletes. 7 out of 10. So they tend to play multiple sports, but they make it to the Olympic level. But these basketball, football, those types of people, they just play one, at least nowadays.
So they just keep
And
using the
and that's the
repetitive.
thing. I mean, I've had conversations with a friend, and we're in agreement about multi-sports because you work different muscles. But the way that some parents see it is, oh, he or she has to specialize in this right now, or they won't be as
They
good.
won't make it.
Actually, multi-sport, and this is no research, But I can tell you, multi-sport student athletes,
Or better.
whether you're elementary, high school, or college, are way athletic, more athletic than the ones who just specialize.
In the
They
one.
know body control, some of the things that you wouldn't learn in baseball, that you would learn in football, that you would learn in soccer or whatever you're playing, you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And and if you don't have coaches that are willing to teach you some of these skills, they just want to insert, you're lacking and you're going to continue to lack and you won't be as good and you won't reach your potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always said that multi-sport is better than specializing, period. But they
Mm-hmm.
make it so where it's almost like the parent wants the child to choose, or the coach is like, you gonna have to choose because you can't da 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 if you over here blah blah blah. Because I did
Doing what?
AAU in track, and it came to my senior year. AAU wasn't paying my bill in school. So I went to the all-star track meet. I sure did and left that whole tournament. My senior year, I did not play AAU. Because I'm like, track is paying my bill at this point. I gave basketball the old good old boy
Yo.
try. It just didn't work. And that's fine.
But who's to say that basketball didn't help you be a better thrower? And
It
people
it
don't see it
did.
that way. They're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the thing. Go ahead, Candace. I know you had this on your mind.
No, I was going to say, I used to work in physical therapy, and you could see a lot of cases in kids, even at that time when they specialized too soon, of having all these different type of injuries in the kids. We had somebody who had a whole hip, hip, and they were they were a freshman in college. I said, you already need a hip surgery? I mean, you're right. Concussions, everything, like it's never mind.
It's bananas. And
It's just,
it's not just about their physical health, their mental health starts taking
oh my gosh.
a hit. Who's the girl? Was it she just won the gold medal in the Olympics in figure skating. Um
Oh, I know who you talk about.
With the different color
Alicia,
hair.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lou, she retired at 13 or 14 because she was like, I'm tired. Leave me alone. Because the way figure skating worked is that you train from the age of like 5 to forever
Hmm.
every day. And she was like, I can't do this anymore. She had to literally walk away and retire at like 14, 15, something really young, and said, I just can't do it. And when she came back, she said, I'm coming back on my own terms. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna train how I want to train. And she won a gold medal. It was mental. And she had all the talent and the ability, but the wear on her was just like, this is unbelievable. And you people don't see it that I'm just a child. And here I am trying to pay all the family's bills. I mean, I remember they was having an interview with Gabby Thomas before this last Olympics. And she's what, like 26, 27 at the time. And she was like, you don't understand the amount of pressure they put on you. And she's an adult. She was like, the marketers want to put your name on the billboards and on the buses and all that type of stuff long before you even go to the US trials. Now, Gabby Thomas runs track in the Olympics. And so she was like, I hadn't even got on the team yet, but I have my picture everywhere. And it's like, my goodness, you can't false start. You can't come out sick. Can't nobody fall in your lane because, and then you not make the team. And she was like, that's too much. That's so much pressure for me at 26, 27. Imagine taking 10 years, 15 years off of her years and talking about a 12, 13-year-old has to do this. Come on. This is not, this is not
All I
mentally
know
And
healthy.
then
is sports psych across the country. Sports psych departments in the collegiate level across the country are busy all
they
day, every day,
and they
seeing
never taught
students.
they never taught kids from a young age of how to deal with losing, first of all. How to deal with losing. That's a
Hmm.
big thing.
Hmm.
I don't,
Mhm.
but you know what? I think it goes deeper than that. Y'all know me. How was the US formed? Look at here. Look at here. The US always had to win. We had to run these people out that we don't think was going to help them because we got to be winners. We got to push these people down from California to Mexico because we trying to be winners. We trying to develop this and we trying to make the most money and we trying to be the most powerful. And it's like it's ingrained in our culture. We have to win. We have to be the best. We have to be on top. Failing is not an option.
Hmm.
Like you get all the movies. Like the movies, you got people crying in the movies. They won. They won. But what if they fail? So what? What if they fail? It's not ingrained. It's the culture. It's the culture.
I mean, I'm not necessarily one of those people that says, okay, like Dante is, you don't get no participation trophies just for showing up. You know,
Yeah.
you get one for winning. But here's me. I feel like it should be celebrated the fact that you gave your very best, even if it came up short. Learn how to continue to win on top of that and build on top of that. We don't do that well. We don't
And
do
we
that well.
don't
If you
that
failed at
well.
this, even if you tried your best, it was like, well, you're the first loser. And we forget about you, but we just did not see you still put in all that work. You still put in all that effort. They don't understand how to build off of something that wasn't as successful as you want. And we need to change the idea of what success actually is.
That's part of it. And to teach kids that it is okay that if you put in your best, that everybody, I think one thing that we don't understand is, and we don't teach people is everybody has a different level of talent. I think about in the Bible, the story of the talents. One guy was a 1 talent, one guy was a 2 talent, one guy was a 5 talent. And they were able to multiply. The 2 talent guy made four, the 5 talent guy made 10, the 1 talent guy buried his. So I don't agree with whatever you have, not developing it at all. But I think you need to understand you can develop, and even with your development, you 1 talent man might double yours and become 2 talent, but your 2 talent still is not going to stack up against the 10 talent guy. And that is okay. So you take your 2 talents and you go invest them somewhere else and do what you can with what you have. Everybody's not built equally. Everybody's not. I am not athletic.
We know.
Y'all know that. Y'all play sports. Y'all was out there hustling. I was just barely making it through tennis. And I only did it so I could have a sport on my college application. I was struggling. I recognize that I am not an athletic person and that is not my calling in life. So what do? I pivot and I find what am I good at? What do I need to develop? So I went into music. Now, y'all say people ask y'all that all the time. Do you sing like Leah? No, I don't expect y'all to sing like Leah. You know why? Because y'all are y'all and y'all do what God has put in you to do. And unfortunately, we are trying to push kids into the same mold, hoping they will be the next Jordan, the next LeBron, the next this, the next that, instead of telling them, this is what you have. This is what you have to work with. Let's work with it to the best of our ability. And if it's not Michael Jordan's status, let's find where your status is. We don't teach kids that. So they fail and then they want to go jump off a bridge or something.
You know
And
what?
unfortunately,
Go ahead.
and unfortunately, that's the kind of mental pressures that are being put on kids these days.
I'm gonna wrap it up with three thoughts to this, and part of it is what Leah talked about. We don't do enough searching to actually find our talents because when we look at the money that youth sports is making, we're like, it's gotta be it, right? That's gotta be it. We're sure hoping that that one's it. So when we do have a failure or we're not as successful, we don't learn how to pivot, especially at like 13, 14. What else are you good at? And I think that's where parents come in to help cultivate the other opportunities that you may have that's not as obvious, but you have talent in other areas. Second, I believe, and I said this way back in the Olympic episode, I believe that talent, God gave talent to the world evenly. I don't think he gave all the talent to the US people, or all the this ability to only these groups of people. I think that, DNA and genes play a role in it, but I think that God gave talent equally. The problem is we don't always have equal opportunity. So there's people who are very fast and somewhere in Africa, but they're sheep herders. You know what I mean? They don't have necessarily the opportunity. And so we always have to keep that in mind when we're talking about youth sports, that some kids don't have the opportunity, but they're just as talented. And number 3, if we can overdo it, we'll do it. Like Tiffany said, if we can overdo it, we will do it as a nation. So I feel like we need to always have balance, especially when you're coming down to kids. They need all of it. They need physical balance. They need mental balance. They need parental balance. They need coaching balance. They need balance because they're just kids. So lighten up. That's all I
But
got.
at the end of the day, will it even matter 2.0? No.
No. It's
He
only
didn't
what
teach you how to stand before God.
right, because it's only what we do for Christ that's gonna last. So we can strive in this world for greatness in whatever area we're going to choose in, whether it's sports or not. But at the end of the day, all of us have to make an account for our own lives and stand before Him. So we always got to keep that in mind. So really, the answer is still to the question is, does it really matter? Absolutely not. It's only what you do for Christ that will last. On that note, thank you for listening to another episode of For Sisters and Brother. Peace out.